Hello everyone, this is a session for the module HRM&D in a global context, and it relates to organisational design. And in this lecture I'm going to be talking about organising via teams or variations of teams. Now, workers have long worked together in groups or teams. Research dating back to the 1920s and 30s, the Hawthorne studies, which can be read about in many general management and organisational behaviour textbooks, highlighted the more social advantages to working in teams. And teamwork has become a much more prevalent way of organising work in recent decades. Senior managers have become advocates, often encouraged by their HR directors and managers, in the belief that it will enhance performance. So it's fair to say that a business case has been made for organising around team working, and we've seen team working introduced in occupations where workers have traditionally worked much more independently. So for instance, law firms. And in those type of situations, it can take some while for those workers to actually adjust to work being organised around teams when they're experts and they consider themselves as independent workers. This particular slide shows the way that groups and teams can enhance performance and allow private sector firms to gain a competitive advantage through having a diverse team of experience and skills that makes it much more responsive to the type of customers that it has, so able to address different types of customers' needs through a range of ideas coming together, being able to increase innovation. And as we talked about, the known effects for quite a number of years now around the more social side of work and increasing workers' motivation and satisfaction. Now, there are various types of team in existence, from executive teams, which in many traditional hierarchies will be where decision making is centralised. We've got formal, often functional teams where members are focused in a particular area and working permanently together. We've got task and project teams, which may be permanent membership or more temporary transitional membership. And that type of structure is key to matrix type organisations, such as Google being particularly noted for that. So matrix structures are where work is organised around tasks and around team or project groups. Virtual teams, we've seen the increase in virtual working for many people over the course of the COVID pandemic, and we might expect to see that continue in the future. Self-organising or autonomous work teams. Again, these have been in existence for many years. And teams can be more or less self-organising or autonomous. So fully self-organising and fully autonomous work teams will set their own goals. So in some cases they totally manage all aspects of work, hiring and firing of staff, purchasing of equipment without recourse to getting approvals for that. So everything associated with the work will be organised by the team itself if it's fully self-organising or totally autonomous. Self-managing or autonomous work teams are useful where work is complex. So there are no obvious processes and solutions that mean we can almost standardise and make work like a process line. Key to success is giving the team enough responsibility and autonomy to make decisions. Careful selection of team members is needed to ensure you've got the right diversity of skills, experience, enthusiasm and attitudes for actually working as part of a team. So in some cases, workers themselves will just not be suited to that kind of team approach where there needs to be some give and take perhaps some flexibility, and negotiation, willingness to work with consensus rather than total agreement. So all the team members coming together and say, yes, we can all live with this. Okay, I've had my say. Yeah, I'm willing to commit to working in this particular way. And obviously, members' training needs need to be met. A form of team working is a way of organising known as Hellacracy, which has been trademarked by Brian Robertson, a software engineer and entrepreneur. So based on agile systems and lean technology. And there is a TED talk, a short TED talk, which he gave discussing his reasons for introducing this form of organisation and the way that it's actually implemented. So work is organised in what are known as circles, which are forms of teams. And those circles are actually arranged in a form of hierarchy, where the broader circle defines the purpose and accountabilities of sub-circles. Each circle represented also within the broader circle, so that all of these circles or teams actually have a voice in decision making. But there are very, very specific criteria and rules around what people can do. So in many ways, in the way that we might see lots of rules associated with hierarchy as a form of structure, there are also very specific rules associated with Hellacracy, so very defined governance processes. And while titles such as manager are not actually used, in essence, individuals may well have responsibilities, they're known as responsible officers, over particular areas. Now you may want to just pause here and look at this comparison between traditional companies who operate with job descriptions, more delegated authority down a hierarchy, more limited reorganisation and typical office politics, versus the way that Hellacracy is argued to operate with roles defined around work and people filling multiple roles, more distributed authority to the teams or the circles, more rapid iteration of the structures, so being able to kind of change the structure, it's argued much more easily, and to change role descriptions much more than job descriptions. And very transparent, but actually very fixed rules which are visible to everyone. So you might want to have just a pause and a think about that, and think about just how far this does differ from a traditional type of hierarchy. One of the most notable users of Hellacracy is the late Tony Hazem of Zappos, and he introduced this in 2015 and was quite radical about the way that he actually did that, giving people the opportunity to get on board with the idea or to leave. A number of members of staff did actually leave. So there's quite a lot that you can read around his use of Hellacracy. And it's fair to say that some eminent academics challenge how different Hellacracy actually is. Pfeffer, professor at Stanford, says that actually you really need benign dictator type CEOs to actually maintain these kind of ideas. And they are often the only thing that really stops a company from actually reverting to a more traditional form of hierarchy. So if that particular person disappears, then that system might also then collapse. Petriglieri says again that these systems are very reliant on the leader to maintain the actual culture that enables Hellacracy. And we often talk about leaders today as setting the conditions for work. So actually making it possible for teams to be more autonomous or not, for change and innovation to happen or not. And Petriglieri suggests actually these circles or teams are not in reality leaderless. So as I say, you can have a look at Robertson's TED talk about Hellacracy. You can have a think about these challenges to the idea of how different it is, and what might be critical to actually maintaining these slightly different types of structure. But certainly Hellacracy is becoming more well known and thought about it as an idea for organisation. Thank you for listening.